Sorry. It was.
Hey, that's fine. My birthday's actually like a couple months ago. Like we did a special on our Patreon for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It seems I wore my long legs today and I couldn't read my calendar right.
I think that's called body dysmorphia. I think your legs are like fine, actually.
Do you think so?
Why are you doing? You're doing this like voice. I'm trying to figure out like the most polite way to say it. Like like you're like a transphobic caricature, but like with a lot of plausible deniability.
Let me in now, and it could be nice.
Like you're someone who heard Dinosaur Jr. and like immediately called J Mascis the F slur. Like that's what I'm picking up on.
Wow, we're starting strong today.
We're starting strong. I'm kidding. I don't think Longlegs is intentionally queerphobic. I'm not doing that hot take today.
Well, what hot take are you doing today, Jay Bearhat?
This movie fucking sucked. My hot take is that this is Oz Perkins' worst film, and he should go back to not being given this much money. And also, my hot take is Oz Perkins. This movie is everything that people accuse like Ari Aster movies of being.
Wow. So what is it that people do accuse Ari Aster movies of being? So we're talking about Longlegs today, right?
We're talking about Longlegs, yeah. The Nick Cage vehicle.
Uh-huh.
Starring Nick Cage as the titular man of Longlegs.
And starring some bitch from some other thing that we...
she was in... Oh, God. Why am I blanking on the name now? It Walks Skin. It's coming.
It follows. It follows.
It follows. It's here. Look out.
It's there.
It's on the way.
Look out. Whatever that movie's fucking called.
Yeah, It Follows. She's good in that. Also has Blair. No, not Blair. It does have Blair Underwood, but it has a bit role by Kierna Shipka, aka Sabrina.
Oh, that's right.
Witch. Don't quite recognize her because they give her a bad haircut and a worse accent.
Yeah, a really horrid southern drawl. Where's to kills yous?
I'd watch your eyeballs pop, 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 pop. Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll circle back on many decisions made in this film. And then of course we have Alicia White, who is kind of been in just like a bunch of stuff. I rewatched it recently and I was like, oh fuck, what do I recognize her from? And I should have been like Dune and Twin Peaks because she's the child from Dune, and then has been in a bunch of David Lynch stuff because of that.
That's so funny.
But the actual thing I recognized her from, and this is going to sound so like a joke, but I'm not joking, the main character in Urban Legend.
You're so fucked up.
I was like, what do I know her from? And I saw that, I'm like, no, I don't remember in that. And then the second I saw Urban Legend, I was like, she's the main character in Urban Legend, of course. That's where I know her from.
My God. Yeah, she's been in I Care a Lot. She's been in Cecil B. DeMented. But
she's been all over the place. Yeah. She is a recurring comment subject, let's say, on our show. Sorry, in my therapy sessions.
Yeah, of course.
But, great. Oh, yeah, and then Blair Underwood, who I actually don't really know him from too much. I'm looking at the list of things.
Blair Underwood. I feel like
he's
I
been in
recognize
stuff.
him.
He was in a bunch of stuff in the 90s. Like he was in Set It Off, Rules of Engagement, which I guess is technically a 2000 movie. Deep Impact, has a small role in Gattaca. But I'm looking at stuff he's been in like since like the 2010s, and there's not a lot that I recognize. So I think that's probably why I just don't recognize him.
Lots of television work as well.
Yeah, a lot of television work. That was the big thing, is like seeing him be like, oh yeah, he's just played a lot of L.A. Law. I guess is his big breakout role, which I never watched because I'm not like 45. It's an actor who's been around.
Sure.
And he's in this. Great job. Liked him. Did fine enough. That's not a dig against him. That is... he was in Playgirl. Anyway, got distracted there. So yeah, we've got a cast. A star-studded cast. We've got great, mysterious, spooky advertising leading up to it. There's billboards. There's things you can call. You got Nick Cage making funny voices. You got the scare cam advertising. People being like, this is the scariest movie. I watched this movie and I went home and I fucking killed myself. It was so scary. Stuff like that. Cops going to see it, dying of fentanyl overdoses in the theater because they get so scared. It's big thing. I am pretty tuned out from all of that advertising stuff. I pay a little bit of attention to it. But, like, me and my friends are like, Oz gang, let's go. Oz Perkins he's on the come up. People are finally going to recognize him. They're finally going to, I don't have to keep saying that I really like Blackcoat's Daughter. And people go, oh, I guess so. I don't have to say I really like I Am the Pretty Thing People Love in the House. And people say that movie sucks. I don't have to say I liked Gretel and Hansel. And people say, I don't know. Do you mean Hansel and Gretel? Like this movie? And like, no, it's the one. It came out like in 2019. Nobody saw it. It had the girl from Stranger Things in it, but not that. No, sorry, the girl from It Chapter 2 in it. I don't have to do this anymore. I could be like Oz Perkins. Everyone is on board. And they were. And then I saw it, and I hated it. I hated it. Oh. It's one of those movies. Sometimes you walk out of a movie and you're kind of so caught off guard by it that you're like, it wasn't good, but it there's a lot of things in it I like. And then just like the more you think about it, the like more mad you get. Like you digest the film and it passes through you like enchiladas.
Right. Gets
like
guts.
bad white people enchiladas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So I say people accuse Ari Aster films of being just like, oh, he's just using horror as a set dressing. They're otherwise just like dumb, overwrought, self-absorbed metaphors for trauma by a guy who has weird problems with women and especially his mom. And then Longlegs comes out and it's a huge smash hit. And I'm reading interviews of him when I'm rewatching it a second time, and Oz Perkins is explaining about how he actually doesn't care about Satan or numerology or anything else than that, and he thinks the Bible's dumb and that the occult is fake and gay. But that he watched Eraserhead after having a kid, and he realized that you could do metaphors in a movie, and that everything in the film is just completely irrelevant because it's all a magic trick to trick you into watching this film that is processing the experience of realizing that your mom lied about your dad not being gay.
Is that really what it is?
I am I'd hear people say that. I'm like, oh, come on. It can't be like, there's no way he's like, okay, yeah, his dad is Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates in Psycho. There's no way it's going to be that poorly thought out of like, so I'm going to make a movie about a gay little psycho and the mom helps cover up for him. And that's my metaphor for my mom covering up that my dad, who was a famous actor, was gay. Let me find the exact quote. I forgot that he describes Eraserhead as it's a movie about what happens when you ejaculate. So he's like, so Longlegs becomes just a story about, well, what if there's this mom who has this huge thing that she can't tell her kid, and what's that like in the most kind of Baroque horror movie version? So what ends up happening in the picture is that it starts off as a serial killer procedural, but that's like a magic trick. It's like, look at my left hand. That's not what it is. I don't give a fuck about triangles and numbers and dates and clues and shit. And it's fine. And it's helpful. It's super useful to engage an audience so that they're with you. It's so important to do that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of about, Ruth Harker, the mom, she kind of makes a tough choice.
Sigh.
And the tough choice he's referring to is his dad being gay and his mom not telling him.
Sigh.
Which also, to back it up, I watched Psycho like immediately after this weekend. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, you told me that there's shots that are literally like from Psycho.
Yeah, so there's so much like rewatching it after reading those interviews. There's so much just like stuff that in the movie is like, okay, cool, whatever imagery that I'm now realizing is extremely on the nose, like to a point that makes, and I love I Saw the TV Glow, but to a point that makes I Saw the TV Glow look subtle. There's flashing shots during the sequence where she's reading over all the crime things, and the last shot is blood going down a bathtub drain in like basically the exact same frame. I think it's even the same aspect ratio as that shot from Psycho, which is one of the most like infamous shots in movie history.
Right. Okay, so he's kind of explicitly referencing it, I would say.
Yeah.
That shines a whole new light on the movie for me that I wasn't really ready for. The idea that it's like kind of going in the same direction as like Hereditary, where it's kind of like pulling on this satanic imagery, but that's the underlying thing. That's tough.
Right? I mean, like, I'm not gonna say, like, you can't make a movie about, oh, my mom lied to me, but I'm gonna make it, like, more interesting than just she lied to me about my dad being gay. I can't really fault it for that. But don't fucking tell people that.
Yeah.
It's like, don't fucking tell people that that's what it's about. That's like, are you stupid? Dog, people can put together that that's the metaphor and feel smart about it. Because if you say it out loud, instead of like, oh, I'm not telling, they're going to be like, oh, okay. So if it's about your dad being gay, why does the killer, look and act like that?
So, yeah, in terms of, like, the meat of the movie, like, we have, like, basically Nicolas Cage looking all fucked up in like, prosthetics that are supposed to look like plastic surgery, I suppose.
It's very Michael Jackson in Scary Movie 3. Like, it's like, specifically, like, look at how horrible and awful this plastic surgery is. Which, for a character who is very explicitly, like, glam rock influenced, and is apparently a metaphor for your gay dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily the best choice to have gone for with that one.
Oh, there's a lot of choices.
Especially when like so much of the advertising was like, this is the scene when Micah Monroe saw Nicolas Cage's Longlegs for the first time, and here's her actual heart rate because the way he looks is so scary. And then you see him, and it's like, oh, he's like an ugly guy. He's like a guy who just has bad plastic surgery.
He's smart schoolboy 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Not to be a 2013 Tumblr SJW, but I don't know what's so scary about weird-looking people. Like, that just feels like an antiquated movie thing. Like, leave it in the 80s, I guess.
Like, I think it's fine. Not that he's scary, but I think it's fine to use this very iconic, weird-looking face prosthetic to emphasize the idea of, like, it's strange that nobody has seen Nicolas Cage's character. It's strange that they can't find him, that they can't find evidence of him. And then when we, the audience, see him, he's so, like, unique and specific looking that it's like, okay, how are people not seeing this guy? He's the most, like, you would remember seeing that guy.
Yeah.
I think there's, like, something like that I think works in the film's favor. But when it's constructed around this idea that, like, when you see his face, you're gonna freak out. Because it does that in the movie, too.
Right.
Like, it hides his face in the film a lot because it's, like, the idea is, like, when you see his face, it's gonna be horrifying.
It's treated as a jump scare, fully.
Yeah. And I don't like that. If the movie was better, I might tolerate it more. Like, I tolerate Ari Aster's weird thing about old naked people.
Right.
I don't really feel like tolerating it, though. It just seems really weird here. Not that he doesn't, look weird. Not that it's not, like, a thing that you can use for, air quotes, unsettling effect.
Mm-hmm.
But you are it is a film that is using, this guy has had weird plastic surgery and is kind of obsessed with, like, glam rocker androgyny and has this weird sing-songy voice. And, like, you're using all of that as shorthand for nefariousness and Satanism and how fucked up and evil and weird this guy is in a movie whose direct lineages are Psycho
Yeah.
and Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And then you have the audacity to go on Reddit and be like, transphobes are stupid, so I'd rather people not think I'm stupid. I said trans rights, and it's like, okay, you deal in the images of the signifier, bitch. Okay, like, fuck you. Like, you don't get to just be like, but I don't believe that. You're way out of this one. Okay, explain your choices. And again, I'm like, I like Psycho. I'll take. I love Sleepaway Camp.
Uh-huh.
I will gladly eat shitty transphobic horror. But don't make your guy Tiny Tim with a botched FFS surgery. And then try to tell me, no. He just likes Dinosaur Jr. Fuck you. He's got a Lou Reed poster in his fucking basement. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's signifiers. There's all sorts of imagery here.
And again, I get it. I get that you're working on the realm of the unconscious. Whatever. Just be like, oh, that wasn't the intent with this character.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. What am I going to do? Prove you wrong? But I don't know. I guess ultimately it's weird because it's not like my main beef with this film is that I think it's particularly queerphobic, which really is probably saying a lot more about just like fatigue.
Right.
About just like how awful everything else is that I'm like, all right, whatever. Okay. My bigger problem is that the movie's not very good.
Yeah. To that end, what did you think of the setup of like day one on the job, house one, before they even knock on the door, she's like, "Oh, this is the killer."
So this film has one of the biggest problems for me with this film is it really shows how much he's just like didn't really think about stuff. I described it this way with like compared to his other work, where it's like I think Longlegs and Black Coat's Daughter are equally shallow films, but Black Coat's Daughter is a much smaller movie, so it can contain that. It can hold all of that like kind of shallow stuff. Everything that's in it is very densely packed in. But Longlegs is big. It's sprawling. There's all of this ideas. All of these like plot beats and conceits, and it just stretches the little bit there really, 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 really far, and it leads to a lot of things just kind of like showing up and then leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great one, which is she's like half psychic, and then it just never comes up again.
It's not really used to like solve the case.
It's not used to solve the case. It's not used to propel her forward. It would make sense if the idea is that, oh, it wasn't her being psychic. It was like the Satan doll manipulating her to get her into this position to pull off the last murder or whatever. Which I think it seems to be the intent. It would make sense for that to show up like more in the movie.
Yeah.
But then when she solves the letters, he just gives her the answer key.
Yeah.
Like, Satan doesn't do that. He just shows up at her house and is like, here you go. Don't tell them where you got this. And at no point does the psychic thing ever come up again.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where the movie betrays its, like, lack of interest in itself. And, like, the mystery that it was trying to weave. Like, it just kind of... It's a very, and then this happened, and then this happened kind of movie.
It feels like it's trying to do the same thing Hereditary does, where everything in it is controlled by the mother figure for religious purposes, and all of this autonomy that this character does or does not have ultimately doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, evil wins, because evil planned everything out from like basically that she was like, she didn't get a choice in the matter from the beginning.
Right.
Her whole life, the movie ends right at the only moment where she maybe has a choice. And that's what it's doing, but it doesn't really do a good job of like conveying that. And once it starts explaining that, it gets really not convoluted. It gets really bad and dumb and stupid.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than it's like it's once the big reveal or whatever happens, and even actually before that, it starts to become just too much of like, oh, you just like, you have too much going on here.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't feel like, oh, all of this stuff is planned. She's being manipulated. She was never in control. She was never given a choice. She's struggling with this idea that, like, she never actually got a say in the matter and she can't trust her own memories. It feels like the character herself is kind of just trapped in a script and is just going through the motions, but not for any reason, but just because that's what the script is, which itself could be interesting, but doesn't feel like that's what the movie's doing.
I love when the movie has to unnaturally, like, squeeze itself into the Osgood Perkins tone. Like when, she's hanging out with her boss's daughter and having to act, like, kind of somewhat normal. She plays a very, like, slapstick neurodiverse character throughout the movie.
That's one of those things where I don't know if that's an Oz Perkins thing or if that is just the actress being like, oh, like reading the script and being like, oh, she's like autistic, right? And Oz just going like, sure, go with it. Because like I feel like if you read the actual writing, like the script and stuff, it doesn't feel like she's written that way. She's just played that way. And it makes dialogue and lines and behavior that I think otherwise would just be bad, like feel stilted in an intentional way.
Sure.
It's very funny that he has a callback to the thing in Blackcoat's Daughter where the daughter keeps calling her parents, to the point that I thought he was just going to reuse the same twist that the mom's dead the entire time. And that her psychic power is that she can talk to her dead, is that she's like able to talk to her dead mom who can tell her things that are going to happen because of it.
That would have been better than the mom just being the killer.
But then we wouldn't have gotten the incredible line of, she used to be a nurse and help people, but now her job is to kill people.
Yeah, what an awesome fucking line.
Awesome line. Great delivery. Nailed it. Perfect. Great job, Alicia Witt. Wonderful. Great directing. Great acting. Okay, I'm being mean to her. I blame that on Oz Perkins. There's so much. Everyone else is, I feel like, trying to do the same thing that Micah Monroe is doing, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work, except for Nicolas Cage. It doesn't work for anyone else's character. Her mom comes off like she has black mold poisoning. The sergeant guy just like oscillates between playing this like 80s LA cop guy and like there's like the scene where he's drunk but he doesn't talk like he's drunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just like stands up and goes, "I'm drunk.
I am now drunk."
Oops, I am now drunk. I guess it is time for you to take me. And all the characters talk like someone is holding them as dolls and making them jump up and down. It is time for you to take me to my house. This is my daughter. Hello. Did you want to be an FBI agent when you grow up?
You know,
no?
maybe
Why
that's
not?
on purpose. It's like a Bresson kind of thing. Just, using the actors as figures. Like, maybe that's what this is all a reference to. It's like, it's just the dolls are a metaphor for the cinema.
See, that would sound good, except that he just straight up said that the dolls were loosely inspired by the killing of John Benet Ramsey.
He said that, didn't he?
Yeah.
What a thing to say. Wow.
Just straight up said, like, is like, yeah, I heard about how, like, where they found her body, like, 15 feet away, there was, like, a life-size replica doll of herself. I thought that was crazy, so I was just like, oh, I want to put that in a movie. Great! And he did.
And then he did. Which really shows a level of thought and care. And discernment. What a cynical fucking movie to end with, like, the main character shooting her mom in the fucking head. Like a video game.
And ending on, like, the last line that the mom says is, like, don't call me that, when she calls her mom. And it's like, that runs completely counter to everything else in the film thematically.
Yeah.
If the whole thing is this struggle of, like, the mom had to make an awful decision because she thought it would protect her daughter, and it leads to this position of, like, is this in the long term better for her daughter, or is it worse for her in the long term? I mean, within the actual narrative, I guess it's theoretically better because she's not dead.
Right.
But within the metaphor, within the textual language of the film, is the decision she made the right one, or is it just the decision she made in a desperate situation? And that's completely undone when she's like, "Don't call me your mother." Like, it's like, oh, does she hate her daughter now? Like the whole point of this was that, like, she was doing this for her daughter.
Yeah.
And then there's that great scene where she's like, "We're all gonna worship Satan," and then there's just like, it cuts to her like covered in blood, like dancing in front of a tree. Like, okay, this is like B-roll you filmed and couldn't find another place to put it. Like, what? Like, why is this here?
There's a lot of that throughout the movie.
That's exactly part of it too. It's like, there's just so much stuff that he filmed because he thought it looked cool, which is fine. I think that's a great thing to do for your movie, but he like inserts it in like the worst places for it. Like, he's like, "Oh, this is a great excuse for me to insert it in there," and it's like, no, it isn't. It's a terrible excuse. Don't put it there.
He knows what he's doing, Jay Barat. That's how you know when the mom says our prayers protect us from the devil as one of her first lines. That's
our prayers protect us. God, everyone has such bad accents in this too. I don't know what's going on with that.
It weirdly reminded me of like Japanese Americana paranormal horror stuff, like a weird. I was trying to place in my head like where it could take place because they bring up the Mariners, our beautiful Mariners. I was not able to take Nicolas Cage seriously at all.
No, that's like the other problem is Nicolas Cage is such a such a live wire of an actor. He's really a live wire of an actor. No, but you got to know how to channel him, and I think the misdeployment of Nicolas Cage in here is probably the biggest indication of just like, this is just like not very well directed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the kind of role that like Nick Cage should kill in.
Yeah. Literally.
Weird flamboyant dinosaur junior guy. Like the scene with the girl at the tool place kind of gave me hope at first, because it's like it is correctly conveying this idea of like, oh, what if he's just like some weird I liked it because it conveys this idea that he's not a very charismatic or manipulative person. He's actually extremely off-putting and upsetting, so that adds to the mystery of how is he doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But then the movie explains how he's doing it. He puts a magic ball in a doll's head. I think that's the biggest problem, is that Oz Perkins films for me work because he'll pack them in so tightly with all this weird shit that like they're technically not that difficult to understand, but they feel very dreamlike and in their logic. But this feels very script-like, but without the logic.
Right.
So everything happens because it needs to happen so that the next event will make more sense, rather than feeling kind of propulsive and influenced on itself. And so then everything has to be explained at the end, and once everything is explained at the end, it just A, raises more questions than anything, and B, is like a bad explanation. Is actually like a really dumb reveal.
Yeah.
I also thought like at one point what the reveal was going to be was that the dolls were driving the family crazy because the family thought that the dolls were their children, and like maybe there'd be some insane reveal where like, oh, all the kids that they thought were murdered are actually like dolls, like they dig up their bodies and they're just dolls in the coffins. And so the whole thing with the camera family is going to be that, like, the reason why that one went so weird is because, like, she snuck out before the effects started. And so, like, she got away from him and therefore, like, never got pulled into whatever's going on. Because I even felt like that would have been a cool twist to go with the thing where she's like, it has to be someone they trust, like a child or someone who looks like a child. Yeah, you bring it back. You have the kids each kid is becoming involved in this action. But no, it's the mom. The mom did it.
Yeah. It's a woman.
Reverse Psycho.
Oh damn! It is Reverse Psycho.
Yeah, the mom is actually in on it.
Damn.
And the never seen father is the actual killer or the accomplice killer.
And then the real killer is Satan.
I love seeing all like the TikToks and like Twitters that are like, whoa, here are all the moments that like Satan is like hidden in the film, and it's like half of them are like, yeah, I saw it in a theater. Like I saw it in a theater. It wasn't very hard to see. And two, it's like none of them are in moments where you're like, whoa, he was there. It's like, oh, the scene when she sees the devil outside her house. The scene when Longlegs is in the basement talking to Satan. The scene when she says, the devil does his work. Like, that's not hidden. He's just
there.
There. He's just not well matted in.
The green screen didn't work.
I just feel like in a different film, even the really weird shit with Nick Cage's character could have worked. Because I do like his weird, like, lines and the way he delivers them.
I didn't.
Okay, expand on that.
I thought he was written really, really derivatively. I thought that, like, his performance of, like, the camera family farm, blah, 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 like, his monologue was really corny to me.
Okay, that one was bad. Yeah, that one was pretty bad.
Yeah. Even though it was, like, it was important for him to deliver that monologue because they repeated that corny dialogue later on, which was still corny. It was corny the first time and the second time. I don't know, just corniness. It's just a very kind of uninspired pastiche of like serial killers.
It also has the awful thing of like on a rewatch, there's so many things that the audience is supposed to go, oh, and then I'm just like, oh, like like when she's like, where is Potts now? And it's like, oh, he's downstairs. He's actually directly under your feet. Wouldn't that be crazy if that's where he was living?
Downstairs. Get it? Downstairs.
The man downstairs.
The man downstairs.
The upside down triangle you saw that you said father, and also the upside down triangle kind of has another meaning.
My favorite part of the whole movie was when they found a little, basically they find the first doll in the attic of like a church or whatever. Or no, a farmhouse. The Camera family farmhouse. And on top of the doll is a little piece of paper with an upside down triangle on it and a smiley face.
It's so fucking funny.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that none of it comes together, and the more I read about it, so usually the more I read about a movie, the more like, okay, it didn't work for me, but I can see why it does work.
Uh-huh.
But the more I read it, it's like, okay, no, everything he's saying in interviews are like the opposite of why anyone liked the movie. Which means that I feel like my exact feeling when I walked out of it, which is like, I don't know, that kind of feels like just a really poorly thought out use of the horror genre. It was.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been so much more. I mean, it has style to it. You have to kind of like, you know, it has that Oz Perkins touch. But unfortunately, the structure, the bones aren't really there.
It has that Oz Perkins touch, but I have like 3 other Oz Perkins movies I can watch.
That's very true.
I like. I like the thing with like Gretel and Hansel, for example, is that like that movie is like madly incoherent. There's so much just like fucking imagery in that movie that probably doesn't really make any like sense. But I love seeing it in theaters. I love looking at it. It's just a weird looking fucking movie. And then there's Longlegs, which looks fine, which looks good sometimes. And then there's just a lot of scenes of just characters standing around delivering the narrative.
Yeah, kind of expositing.
There's literally I remembered when I first watched it, I was like, God, I hope he learned his lesson from Gretel and Hansel and doesn't have any really annoying explanatory voiceovers. And then I got to the scene of the mom giving a really annoying explanatory voiceover. And I was like, God damn it.
Where she just says the whole plot and everything that's happening.
She just says, and that's how I became a serial killer. And I made a doll of my daughter, and the Satan controlled my daughter so that my daughter could grow up. And I became the killer guy, and now we're going to kill her boss's daughter. The end.
The end.
The end. A story by me.
A bedtime story. Good night, daughter.
Yeah, what a shit. Why did she deliver it like a fable? Like, that's the thing that I don't understand.
And one day, a man with plastic surgery showed up. And killed them.
And he said, I'm gonna come back with the devil. And I grabbed my shotgun. Don't quite remember what happened next, but I guess he got the drop on me. The devil was there.
Some devil stuff going on, you know.
It is very funny that in that scene, the devil's just like sitting in a recliner. It's like, sup? Hey, I'm the Satan.
He said that, but he's gotta hang out. He's gotta be at the birthday party.
Yeah, no, he's like, hold up, I gotta get inside this tiny little ball. I gotta tell this guy. I gotta say this guy's wife's name.
God. Yeah, what a dumbass movie. Sorry, go ahead.
You know what? I was gonna say that scene, there's a line in it that I'm like, oh, there's like a path that was taken that line could have been good for. Where it's like the guy is like, the only thing in this is, you know, this metal ball, it's like dense and stuff, but it's like, I've been calling it the brain because, you know, it's in the head, but, you know, doesn't seem like it's got anything in it. Also, like, it makes this weird noise when I put the thing on it. And they're like, oh, can you, and then it flashes a bunch of imagery. He's like, oh, can you open it up? And he's like, well, I can, but I don't think you're going to find any answers to your mystery in there because there's nothing inside it. And I was like, man, imagine if, like, that was how the film ended, was that, like, she gets all of these clues and all of this evidence and all of these answers, and none of them actually solve the mystery. Like, maybe she finds out still her mom was involved, but she has no idea how her mom, like, got the dolls into the house. She has no idea what the dolls do. She doesn't know how these killings were done, what the messages mean. Like, she just learns like if the film has her learn a bunch of more, like, learn more information, and then the information doesn't tell her anything.
You can't write their movie into a better movie, Jay Bearhat. You just
I'm doing it right now.
No,
I think the movie would have been so much better if, because then that works so much better if the idea of the theme of, like, secrets fucking you up, finding out about family secrets fucks you up, because then you find, like, you know, you learn something that explains a bunch of things, but it opens so many more doors, but everyone involved is old and dead, so who the fuck are you gonna ask the questions to?
Yeah. You're thinking about it. And
I'm thinking about it. Which I don't think Oz did. I don't think he thought that much about it. I think he thinks he described Eraserhead as a movie about what happens when you come. Like,
is it not?
And he said it took him like 20 years to realize that.
Hey, you know, that's great minds or whatever.
Imagine your dad directed Psycho 3. And you needed someone to explain, and you needed to have a child to understand that Eraserhead is a movie about having a child. The main plot of Eraserhead.
Oh boy. Oh boy. What can be done for the modern
Film director.
The modern Nepo babies of Hollywood.
He and Chapo Rowan should collab, though. I'm kidding. I don't think Chapo Rowan's a Nepo baby. She's just a famous person I can name.
HOTTO to go. Something, give me hard to go.
Pink Pony Club. I'm gonna go down to the Pink Pony Club. I'm gonna see my friends and say, what's up? I don't know how the song goes.
Yeah, something like that. It's basically that.
It's like a song where every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I know this song. I've heard it a bunch of times. And then, like, the second I'm done listening to it, I forget how it goes.
Uh-huh. Oh, you know. Well, at the end of the day, don't make a movie about your gay dad being gay. I think I have my better than worse than.
His legs aren't even long.
His legs aren't even that long.
Sorry. My brain was just like, he doesn't even have long legs. What is he talking about? Okay, yeah, give me your better than worse than.
I think Longlegs. You're gonna disagree with me. I think Longlegs was better than, Blackcoat's daughter / I am the pretty thing that lives in the house. Just because those movies don't really... They have imagery, they just don't have a lot to chew on, and Longlegs at least follows the thread. It's a derivative, annoying thread, and it's not like a good movie, but I also don't think that those are good movies.
I was gonna say that... It's funny we didn't get into that, because I think that's one of the funniest things, is that I feel like we arrived at different ends. Like, I feel like our opinion of this movie is like two ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're like, oh, this is an improvement. And I'm like, oh, this is a downgrade. Like, we arrive at the same point, but the rest of his filmography we have like wildly divergent opinions on.
Yeah. Which is very fascinating. And I don't know, maybe warrants like revisiting, but I just I preferred this to those from the standpoint of just like wanting structure and things to follow one another, even though the way that they do follow one another is really goofy and dumb. And another, maybe the little too obvious one, but I think this was worse than Silence of the Lambs. I will defend Silence of the Lambs. Because, it's better than Longlegs.
I mean, here's the thing about Silence of the Lambs, is that it's actually a good movie. It's just, unfortunately, also a transphobic movie.
It's like borderline transphobic. It's like debatably transphobic.
I think if you have Anthony Hopkins say the word autogynephile, immediately 100 transphobia points. And they were saying that shit in the 90s.
Yeah.
People didn't know what the fuck that meant in the 90s. They thought that was real. That's like if you went to the 90s and started talking about like gins or that thing that you can't say because indigenous peoples are like that thing's like cursed. If you say its name, it comes and gets you. I'm not even doing a bit with that. I actually don't remember its name.
Oh, the W slur.
Yeah, the W slur. Like if you told people about that in the 90s, they'd be like, "That's real." Because
yeah,
they've
that
never
was
heard
a
of it
different
before.
time.
They've never heard of it before. That's what it was like if autogynephilia.
I've been thinking about 90s spirituality a lot recently. It was what a time.
I feel like the most like end of history turning point for that stuff is the Mothman prophecies.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which I like rewatched recently, and I could pick that as my worst than, but I have a better worst than.
Uh-huh.
But like that movie has like a very same like weird concussive. That movie feels like dumb version of Communion, which is really good.
Yeah, it's dumb Communion.
It really is dumbed down Communion, which is funny because like I read the book for Mothman Prophecies and it's like really good. Like the book for Mothman Prophecies complements Communion, the movie, really well.
That's fascinating.
Because basically the guy who wrote it like thinks that everything that people reported is real, but he doesn't think that Mothman and all that stuff is. And he's not sure if aliens are real. He thinks that like all of this is just like, oh, this is our attempt to like understand something that is beyond our comprehension. And so like these are the forms it's taking, which is like basically what the ending of Communion is about.
Yeah.
Great movie. I love Communion. My better than 7.
Ooh.
I feel comfortable saying that because I did rewatch 7 recently, and I think it has very similar problems to Longlegs.
7 has major problems.
7 has, oh man, it's like a film where when I revisited it, I didn't realize, like I don't know how I never caught just like how much like the killer is in God mode.
Yeah.
like he's like it's like basically invented. I don't know if it invented, but it's super popularized the like he's 10 steps ahead of us at all times thing. But it's like the way that's explained in the film like doesn't actually really like resolve itself, and also creates this really funny paradox where the whole twist of the film relies on the idea that he came up with the last 2 like 3 days ago. Which like goes completely against the idea that he's 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Not to like not even like in a nitpicky way. It's just that it's like it's just such a like, well, you kind of wrote yourself into a corner trying to write around having to explain other things and just created a whole other problem. But yeah, no, it's also just so much more fucking long. I like the way I like the way David Fincher films Arabian City, but that movie is so boring to look at most of the time.
Right.
Does give us Brad Pitt saying it.
Does he say that in the movie? That's crazy.
Yeah, he or either faggot or fag. He calls I think Dante.
That's so funny.
Let me get the exact, because it's the scene where he's trying to read like Paradise Lost, and he's just like gets pissed off. Yeah, he gets so pissed off reading it that he just says fucking Dante, poetry writing fat piece of shit.
Awesome.
and then it's right as like another cop runs up to him and gives him the Cliff Notes version of it, which that scene is burned in my brain because it is the best scene in 7 is that. And then immediately after him at the library meeting with Morgan Freeman's character and just like and just like saying something that is clearly like word for word from the Cliff Notes version of Dante's Inferno, but has nothing to do with what he just said to him.
Awesome. That's a really good Brad Pitt being an idiot movie.
Yeah, like it's just such perfect character writing and acting, and he plays it like perfectly. But unfortunately, that is like also the best scene in the film. So, so 7 would be my worst. Better than. My worst than is something I just watched recently. The Empty Man.
Oh.
So, The Empty Man is it's one of those films that is a very flawed, like you can kind of tell when you watch it, it's got a little bit of a snowman problem where like they clearly didn't get a chance to really properly edit it and finish it. But it's like a weird take on sort of like creepypasta urban legendy stuff that kind of takes the same propulsive, like, oh, what's going on? Like, I feel like every step is like already planned by someone else, but I don't know who. I don't know who the killer is. I don't know what's going, like trying to figure out this mystery that you can never quite grasp the edges of. And it executes on it just a lot better than I thought Longlegs did. And it's kind of become a bit of a cult film because it kind of just was like they just kind of shoved it out the door. I think it went like straight to Redbox after like maybe a week in theaters. But a bunch of people had recommended it to me, and I finally watched it. I didn't like it as much as a lot of other people did, but it is one of those films that I kept thinking about in a way I did not keep thinking about Longlegs. Where like there would be things I'd think about it where I'm like, oh, this movie seems really like there'd be flaws or whatever I'd think about in it, but there would be elements of it and images in it and ideas in it where I'm like, oh, that's like really fucking cool. And actually that ties into like the larger horror of the movie really well. I don't want to get like too into it, but basically the idea is that there's this killer where it's like kids are like, oh, you say the empty man made me do it into a mirror 3 times. And then like over the course of 3 days, you start to hear him, see him, and then he gets you. There's like a really good cold open which kind of sets up this sort of like, oh, it's a little Alien Prometheus-y, but it kind of sets up this like, oh, what is this connection to this mythology? That's like just a really, really good kind of creepy stuck in the woods scene like sequence. And it goes on for like 20-30 minutes. Like it's like basically a really good short film that starts the movie off.
Cool.
And then it just drops you into this retired cop character being asked by like his old flame to investigate, like look into like, oh, my daughter went missing. She left this sign here. All of her friends are acting really weird and cagey, and him kind of like from there, just like it's spiraling out into this like larger and larger and larger conspiracy, and he always is just like feels like he's like on the edges of it, starting to grasp something, and then like something else happens, and he's like, okay, I don't know what's going on. It's really, really good.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah. No, highly recommend The Empty Man, especially if you like Longlegs. I'd love to hear what you think in relation to it.
Okay.
And if you didn't like Longlegs, I also would love to hear what you think in relation to The Empty Man.
Sick.
I'm not usually a big, oh, don't look up any spoilers, but I will say, I don't think like, any spoilers in the film would really ruin it, but I will say I feel like it's really fun to watch the film not knowing where it's going, because it's fun not knowing where the movie is going, because it goes in some really cool places.
Cool. Well, that's just cool and fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling like a lot better now, actually, I think.
Good.
You know what? I think I'm gonna put my Longlegs on, and I'm going to walk myself on down to the theater and watch Cuckoo. I'm sure I'll have a ribald good time with that film.
To be continued.
Continue.